Okay, so to quickly talk about this, we have just created a few input fields here, right? Using this input field component allows us to have an editable field on the page, right? So we have got it for these fields: name, type, industry, phone, and fax. Now I'm going to create a save button for this, right? Let's first of all see what is the output of this field. How do we, see data using this fields, these components. Let me take the ID and put the ID here. Question mark ID equals. Okay. So the advantage of using the input field is that your data will be visible like this. You can edit it. All right. Let's say you want to change it Burlington Textile Corporation. You want to make it. So you have that option of making the changes here. The data appears in the form of input fields. All right. Industry appears like this, type appears like this. So you can make changes on the data, but whatever changes I'm making at this point of time, it's all on the UI. It's not getting saved in the backend database. All right. In case you want to make save these changes as well, then you have to include a save button here. And it's pretty simple, including a save button. There's another component for bringing in a button, which is called an Apex command button. Apex command button, which can be used for saving. So command button has an attribute called value. In the value, you just have to put a text which you want to display on the button. So it can be anything: save, save now, save all, whatever. And it has another attribute called action. In the action attribute, you just have to go and say save. Okay, so action attribute has to be in a formula format. That's it. Now using the save button, you can save whatever changes you have made here. Save. See, the name has got changed. Earlier it was Burlington Textile Corp, now it is Corporation. Alright, so your input field components on Visualforce page will allow you to save the, edit the data on the page, and you can save the changes using the command button. Alright. Now this save button, when I click on this button, it saves all the changes in the database, and it takes me to the detail page of this record. That is what happened, right? When you click on this, changes are saved into the database, and I land up on the detail page. So it takes me out of the Visualforce page and puts me in the detail page of the record, right? In case you don't want to do this, in case you want to save the changes and still stay on the same page, on the Visualforce page, then you can use another action. So there is one more action which can be used, which is called a quick save. So a quick save will basically save the changes into the database and keep you on the same page. It will not take you off that page. So let me put another button here. Apex command button value save and exit. Sorry, save now, whatever, this can be whatever you want. Action has to be quick save. So this quick save will save the changes whatever you have made. Let's say I just want to make it Burlington Textiles Corporation. That's it. Now if I do a quick save, it will save the changes and keep me on the same screen. The changes have been saved, but it does not take me to the detail page. It stays on the same page, same Visualforce page, right? So depending on your requirement, if you want the end user to make, to save the changes at once and then straight away go into the detail page of the record, then you can do that. If you want your end user to save the changes and stay on the same page, you should use a quick save. All right. Let me create one more section, text page block section, and I'll put a title to this: data in database collapsible equals false. Okay. Now I just want to create one more section where I can see the output data. So what exactly is the data existing in the database? So in this case, I can use output fields. Like the way you have used input fields, you can also use output fields. Okay, what is the advantage of using output field? It will just show you the output data as read-only fields. Okay, so first section I've used all input fields, second section I've used all output fields, but before this output field, I want to put these two buttons here. You see this now? These are the input fields and these are output fields. So output field displays you the data just like read-only fields. All right, and input field gives you this option of editing the data. Correct? And now save now will allow me to make the changes. Clear on it? Let's say I've changed this to direct customer. I quickly do save now. See, the changes have been saved here. Okay. One small thing related to these buttons. There's another component which is called command link. Right. This command link works exactly the way command button works. All right. Just that it looks like a link. Let's say fx command link value save action. So action and everything is going to be same, just that instead of a command button I'm using command link. So it will look like a link, okay. You just have a look onto this now. Only difference between this button and this link is that it looks like a link and this looks like a button. That's it. Action wise and everything is same. So the save now will just make changes and stay here. The save button We'll save the changes and go to the detail page, right? So there's no such major difference between a command button and a command link, right? Clear? Okay. Now, another thing, let me remove the links. Okay, and this is commenting the code, which means this part of the code has been used as a comment. All right, so this will not affect the output of the page. All right, it's just like a text line here now. To comment any part of the code, you just have to start with this and end with this. You must have seen, when you create a new Visual Force page, you see, a couple of lines with a comment. Okay, because sometimes while writing the code you will have some part of the code which is not active at this point of time, but you don't even want to delete it, you just want to keep it, right? Like this one, I don't want to delete this, I might use it later on, but I just want to, I don't want this to affect my output also. In that case, comment it out. All right. And the other option can be that sometimes it may happen that you want your some comments related to the code, some personal comments for your personal understanding, reference, or for your developer's reference. Just want to quote that, okay, fine, this is the section which I will use for this and that sort of thing. So that also you can comment out so that it does not get displayed and it's not being used in the output, but it is there in the code. So that's fine. Now I just have these buttons. Now the next thing that we are going to talk about is a page block button. What is a page block button? You must have seen in Salesforce pages. If you look into this, the buttons appear at the top and at the bottom of the section, right? Same buttons are repeated, right? So because the pages can get a little longer and you might want your end user to have that option of either clicking on the button at the top of the section or at the bottom of the section. So to do that, to bring in this kind of buttons, we use another component which is called a page block button. All right. All that you have to do is you just have to put your buttons into another component called Apex page block buttons. Just put these buttons. This is applicable for links also. You can put your links as well there. Save it. See. So this brings in your buttons at the top and bottom of the page block. Here and here. Clear? If you just want this to be at the top, then you can just go ahead and say in that page block buttons there is an attribute called location. You can say top, then it will only put it on the top, then no button at the bottom. Got it? So we have an option of making it top or bottom. If you just want it at the bottom, then it will appear only at the bottom of the page block. Okay, clear on this? All right. So that's there. Now the next thing that we're going to talk about is um, using a standard list controller. So we have worked on the standard controller. Now the next that we will discuss is a standard list controller. But before standard list controller, there's one more small thing that I would want to share with you. See, in this page we have created editable fields, but my editable fields are the input fields. Okay. So ideally this is an input field and I'm using input field to edit. Correct. So don't you think, if you look into this from the look and feel perspective, it does not, allow me to see the complete data properly and all that stuff, right? What if I want to view the fields like this, like the output fields, and still be able to edit them? Hmm? So in that case, what you have to do, you just have to use a small component which is called inline edit support. All right. Let's create another page. I just want to display the data as output field. Still, the end user should have an option of editing that. So let me create another page. This time I'm just going to use output fields. Standard controller equals the payment. Page block and edit output fields. Page block section. Column equals to 1. X output field value account dot name type industry facts. Okay, now let me bring in the ID here. So this is how my data is going to be displayed. I want this data to be editable as well. I'll use another component which is called inline edit support. Yes, inline edit support. Okay, this inline edit support should always be within form component. Use a form component here. Alright, just using that component, inline edit support has made all these fields editable. See, it gets displayed as an output field, but if you double click, you can edit it. Fine. Now these changes are still not saved. To save this, you have to have a save button. So that's something which is required. So I can just have Apex page block buttons and create an Apex command button inside that. Save changes action will be quick save. Alright, now I can double click on anything and I can just make the changes and I can save the changes. So once you save, then only this gets saved properly. That is a good option now. So your end users views the data very neat, like output field, and he has that option of double clicking and entering the data. So depending on your requirement, if you want to allow them to see the input field, that's your choice. But this looks better in case you want to create a page where the end user should be able to edit the data. So this is a better option. Okay, clear on it? Please let me know if anyone has a question here. Okay, cool. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we will create another page with standard list controller. So now standard controller we have talked about and we have seen quite a few examples of standard controller. Let's move on to the other type of controller, the second type of controller, which is a standard list controller. Okay, so what is this standard list controller? Standard list controller is pretty simple. This is a controller where you can use the standard logics of Salesforce and you can display list of records from that object. All right. So how will that work? Let's create a standard list controller for account. Let's say V8. So now this page I'm going to create is going to be a page of list of accounts. Okay, a page for list of accounts. So I will not display one account record here. I will display list of accounts here. So the simple stuff which we're going to do is say standard controller equals account. Okay. To display list of accounts, what you have to do is you just have to say standard controller equals account, and one more attribute needs to be defined, which is called record set var. Okay, this is a variable for the set of records. Record set var. So there is a variable which you're defining for the set of records from account object. So define your standard object as you do, and then say record set var. And record set var can have any name, whatever you want to give it. So this is a variable basically which will hold list of records from account object. You can give it whatever name you want. I will call it ACTS. That will be that. Page block. And I call it list of accounts. Okay, now I'm all set to display a list of accounts on my page. To show a list of records, what do I need? I need a table. So Visualforce has a default component which is called Apex page block table. I'm going to use that apex page block table. And this apex page block table component, this is used for creating a table of data, and this has a few attributes which need to be used. So first attribute is value. What value you want to display in this table? I want to display list of accounts, for which I have given this variable, right? This is a variable which stands for list of records from account. That's what I told you. And inside this table, I want to show this. So that's it. And there is one more variable which you have to define here, okay, which will be used instead of this expression inside the table. Correct? So you just define once another variable here. And for because it's a table, it will have columns inside this. So first column can be a dot name. Save it. See, I've created a table. So try to understand how things are connected to each other. Standard controller defined here. Then I've defined a record set where ACT is. Okay. Then I have defined an apex page block. So that's fine. Leave that page block thing. In the page block table, it asks me for the value. What data you want to display? I say I want to display ACTs. So that comes under the value. All right. Then I define one more variable here. This is like, a nickname for this big expression. Okay, instead of this long expression, I define a nickname for this, or a variable name for this expression. And inside the table, I call this variable. All right, instead of defining this big name everywhere, I just call this small variable. That's it. So when I say a dot name, it shows the name from this list. Same way you can have more columns. You want one more column, you add a dot industry. I want one more column, a dot, let's say phone, and then a dot fax, a dot type, got it? So this is how simple it is. Now this is a page for list of records. There's not a single record, right? So because this is list of records, you basically don't have to, okay, because there's a list of records, so you don't have to actually define the ID in the URL. So no ID needs to be supplied in the URL, right? It's all just the code which brings in the list of account records here. Got it? Okay. So a small activity. Here is the code for account list of accounts. There's a small activity which I want you guys to do now. Log in into your developer editions. Activity is create a visual force page to display a list of all opportunities. Okay, and the fields that I need: opportunity name, account name, amount, stage, close date, and expected revenue. Okay, so this is a small activity. Let's quickly do it. I'm just putting it in the chat window also. Can we quickly do this? You can see the code on my page, but I don't think you will need to refer to the code because it's pretty simple. So we'll do one more example, and we will create the same activity page that I just gave you. Create a visual force page to display list of all opportunities, and the fields that we want to see here are these: opportunity name, account name, amount, stage, close date, expected revenue. All right, let's go ahead with that. So we just go to V9, other page, create this page. Choose the font size. Standard controller equals account. Sorry, no. In this case, it will be opportunity. Will not be account in this case. In this case, it should be opportunity. Record set where. Call it anything, whatever you want. Apex page block. Title can be list of opportunities. Apex page block table. Value ops, which comes from the record set where basically, and a variable. which can be anything. I'll put it as O. Try to keep this variable short because this is again reused in the this table columns. All right, so this is used multiple times in the columns, and for that reason, if it's a short one, it's always easy for us to use it. Text column value o dot name. Okay, so the other one is o dot account dot name. I want to fetch the name of the account. So account is the parent, right? So you just have to say o dot account dot name. So name of the account will come from here. Stage name, amount, close date, and expected revenue. So here is the list. Opportunity name, account name, stage, amount, close date, expected revenue. That's it. Alright. It takes me 2 minutes to create a Visual Force page which can display this nice data. Alright, with the formatting and everything. So that's the beautiful thing about Visual Force. Alright. There's just one small thing that you will need to understand here. A standard list controller page by default displays, not by default, it displays only 20 records on a page. Okay, because this is a standard controller, so we don't even have that option of controlling the logic from our side. So this will display 20 records on a page. 20 records per page are displayed. Alright. Which means it is just showing me the first 20 records at this point of time. What do I do if I want to see the next set of records? There's one action, so you can use a command button with an action called next. Next allows you to view the other records. So I can just have an apex command button, value next page, and there's an action. This action can be used only with standard list controller. It cannot be used with standard controller. This is called next. This next will take you to the next page. Similarly, there is another action, because if I go to the next page, I also have to come to the previous page. So there's another action which is called previous. So I'm just creating two buttons here, next page and previous page, and using these standard actions, next and previous on those. Since I'm using buttons, I am required to use a form component as well. So let me just put it, apex form. Click on next page, click on previous page, got it. So when I click on next page, it takes me to the next set of records. These are the other records. When I go to previous page, it takes me to the previous page. Alright. So default actions next and previous are available with standard list controller, and standard list controller by default displays only 20 records on a page. So if you have more than that, you can just do simple pagination using these buttons. Clear? Please let me know if anyone has a question or doubt here. So we have done a couple of examples on standard list controller. We also did the output fields, and we also used inline edit support, right? So in case we do not have any questions, I think we are good for today. Let's go back and work on these, and we meet tomorrow.